I'm Sarah. Well, I live in Essex. I can't believe I'm still here tonight. I have my children have both graduated, but I'm still here because I still think that as a community, we all need to continue to support our public schools. And that's my aim tonight. So as you are discussing the budget tonight, I'm here to remind you that the schools are the very heart of our communities. Every single household in our communities benefits from our district, whether they include students who are enrolled or not. Why do I say that all households benefit? The economic impact of having a school nearby is significant. The district employs a large number of residents. Our teachers, staff, and administrators contribute to the local economy. Parents who are considering moving to our town want to know their children will have access to a good education. Families that move to Essex and Manchester eat at our local restaurants, shop in our stores, and bring friends and relatives to visit. The future of our communities depends on the opportunities we provide for our children today. When we invest in their education, we're investing in the future of our local workforce, our economy, and our overall quality of life. These kids, and there are some of them here tonight, will grow up to become doctors, teachers, police officers, paramedics, and trade workers. They will become leaders who will not only shape the future of our communities, but also give back to them. Let's continue to support our regional school district and protect the program without further cuts, not just for the children who enter the doors today, but for the entire community and generations to come.
Person.
So I'm going to read this like pretty much because I just wrote it. But so I haven't memorized it yet, but it's in there somewhere. I must say that I never speak at these meetings. I listen and do. I'm
sorry. Can you start with your name and full address?
She'd write that part. Yeah. Miriam McAvoy, Manchester, 7th Ardella Street. I must say I never speak at these meetings. I listen and stew and go home and rant, always wishing I had the confidence to voice my opinions. But I rely on others who share my thoughts to say the things I also think. I guess today I'll take the opportunity to quickly speak about those budget cuts and what I believe, and I'm not alone here, has been a constant and continual annual compromise of our students' educational experience. I'm a parent of a current 6th grader, and I'm not going to drone on about the very obvious and previously stated reasons why the middle school needs its own dedicated principal and administration, but I absolutely do want to advocate for the middle school academy. MSA is a core curriculum class that is specifically dedicated to strengthening student writing abilities, and I believe is new to this school year. This is a core curriculum class that is not graded because I assume the goal is for the students to focus on learning. I sense that it's super hard, but has also recognized how much its own writing has improved since the start of school. Ms. Jackie Marr teaches students how to write effectively. It's not just using correct subject-verb agreement, avoiding split infinitives, or proper use of a semicolon. She's teaching evidence-based writing skills and research methods to support their opinions. These are invaluable skills that transcend academia. Students will be able to communicate confidently and effectively so they're not ignored when talking about concerning symptoms at the doctor's office. They have the language skills to defend themselves in difficult situations, but be able to advocate for themselves when they're in the workforce, and then can be a voice for others who need help. I also see on the level services budget that the middle school reading specialists and the are being eliminated. While this is a service my son does not utilize, I ironically had to read this portion of the presentation 3 times to make sure it's exactly being considered, as I was truly dumbfounded. I don't think I need to explain the importance of being able to read. And I'm going to stop there because it got a little spicy. I need to tell you that evidence-based writing and literacy are basic, essential skills needed to be critical thinkers. Our students are our future leaders, and they'll need to be able to read and write effectively so they can advocate for themselves, their peers, to the towns that are considering not supporting their educational growth. Manchester and society in general will not benefit from will-be dupes and patsies, which is the likely future if we're actually considering clipping their wings now. I didn't have the privilege of attending an even adequately performing school. Let me tell you what happens to those students after they graduate. They leave and they never come back. They don't suggest to their friends and coworkers to raise their families there. We're talking 1-star, do not recommend. What does happen is they become bright, outgoing, and genuinely proud tax-paying citizens of a different town and different school district.
So I'm Lindsay Banks. I'm at 44th Street. And I just want to comment one more time to anyone listening out there and anyone in the audience that it's really important that everybody get out and vote. Vote for the budget that you want to see at town meetings and at Essex also at the town election. But also vote for the larger town offices in both towns. The budget is built by the school committee, but it's built with the input and the leadership from both of our towns. Our towns give cues to the district of what they want to see, and it's very clear from what I've heard in these meetings that the district feels like it's caught in between these two towns at the opposite ends of some type of spectrum. And I don't think that that spectrum really exists between our two towns' residents. I don't think our residents disagree or are too far apart on the school's issue. I see too many passionate caregivers and residents, even if they don't have kids in the schools currently, thank you, Sarah Wolf, who care, who are engaged, who show up for our kids and teachers in our schools. And all of us are devastated with the cuts that are on the table here. So my message is the way to deal with these cuts, you don't want to see them and you don't like the direction that your town leaders have been going in on this or any issue, is to figure out who is running for office in your town, figure out where they stand on the issues that you care about, and then vote according to your values. It could change the entire course of this conversation and, again, other issues that you care about. So.
We have anyone online?
No one in the chat.
If you're online and you'd like to make a public comment, please put your name and address into the chat. Thank you. Anything else from the person? So no one has put their name or address into the chat, and I think we can move on. And for tonight, I know we're trying to keep a tight schedule, so I don't have a specific chairperson's report. We move on to our student report, if you have.
So our last student advisory board meeting, we met and we nominated and elected the next year, rep for next year. So Maggie was to report next year. She's fantastic. I think she's doing an amazing job. So yeah, I'm feeling.
I mean, I'm a bit best. I know most of you guys, this is my mom. I'm a sophomore here. I live in Essex, real quick. Yeah, I'm really excited. It's been great getting to watch Stella do this and be part of student advisory board the past 2 years now. I'm really looking.
What's the gentleman? It's probably going to be me and Maggie, or just Maggie. Yeah.
Great. Moving on to our consent agenda, I'd like to make a motion to accept warrants. Let's see here, 1061 through 1064, and payroll voucher for 4/10/25, as well as the minutes from our meeting on April 1st, 2025. Okay. Any questions? All those in favor? All those abstaining? Thank you. And then, sorry, as part of the consent agenda, we have a donation as well.
No donation. It's just the span I had.
Sounds good. For subcommittee reports. Did any of our subcommittees meet?
Policy subcommittee, met today, and we are reviewing technology, policies, not personal devices, but sort of more administrative. We will be bringing some recommendations for those changes.
Excellent. Moving on to our superintendent's report.
Sure.
If there's any questions.
Says report on. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I have 4 items to report on tonight. it feels like it's been a blink of an eye since the last meeting. We've been pretty busy. On April 7th, we went before the MSBA board and we're officially approved to go forward with our OPM selection. We are formally executing the contract. A press release has been issued announcing Doran Whittier. And our first meeting will be on April 29th, 6 p.m. at the Essex Elementary School. It's a hybrid meeting, but we'll be meeting on site there. So that was the building project was one piece. Then everything else is somehow related to budget development. For the emails that you'll be getting from me, you probably have figured that out. So sticking with April 29th for a moment, we did a Q&A session here tonight. We're scheduled a second Q&A session to be held at Essex Elementary School on the evening of April 29th from 5 to 6 p.m. So that one will be ahead of the Essex Building Committee. So people can come, ask questions about the budget and stay and learn a little bit about the next stage of the building project process if they're interested. We are on a really weird budget timeline this year. Typically, we're adopting a budget in that first week of February. We build the full budget document through the middle of March and release it. We've kind of gone on the express. We've taken a long time to approve, and now we're kind of on an express lane to build that budget. So a lot of effort went into just putting together the documents we had had in draft form along the way, and double checking all of the numbers and ensuring that it was ready to go. The budget was posted today. People, I think, are already receiving postcards in the mail announcing it. If you haven't gotten it yet, but are curious, I can't do that here. It is posted on the MERS site. There's a link to quick links. There's a link on the budget page. It is going to be a hot link in our newsletter. And you can either scan the QR code on the card that comes to your home, or you can type in the URL and get it that way. So the budget book is officially up and available. The FAQs are almost completely loaded, but that link should be able to go live tomorrow. Some of them were contingent on knowing all of the final details of the budget and how it presented. Just wanted to run a double check. But the FAQs are in two sections. There's a general section that's, what is the budget? Why is healthcare such a problem? And then based on a lot of requests that have been coming in from people who are trying to communicate around the budget, there's an entire section dedicated to understanding the components of the contingency plan and their implications. So I think in all, there's probably about 25 questions, but it's a place as questions come in, we can keep adding and updating as we go along. So look for the FAQ. That will also have a link in all of the newsletter documents that will be coming out over the next few days. Then two bullet point information requests is the next piece on my list, and I have 2 bullet points under that. I think we all collectively received a large information request around healthcare from a citizen. I'm not sure if a citizen board member or the capacity under which they were requesting, but a large request from an individual in Manchester looking for health information from an unknown period of time. Insurance, but health insurance information from an undefined period of time. We have been working with our attorney on a response that should be going out. It hasn't gone out today. It will go out tomorrow, just asking for some clarification. When information requests are extensive, we are allowed to charge for services. So what we're attempting to do is gain a scope to see if it's 2 years, it's one project. If it's 15 or 20 years, it's a different project. So we're seeking some clarity around that. And then we had another information request today, which I shared with you as well. And I just wanted to have a conversation about it. This one is a little bit, it's a hybrid request. It's citing the regional agreement and it's citing public records. Some pieces, the ask is things that fall under, things that are available, put them under public record, things that aren't, put them under the regional agreement request language. And I just wanted to have a conversation because I think we could set some precedents. Certainly we have some of this at the ready. Some of it is requiring report revisions, report development, or narrative development, which we can certainly do. But I guess I pose a few questions in terms of what's the committee's expectation on timeline here? If somebody's got something. There was a reference made to the October 1 report language in the regional agreement. is this what we want to establish as the October 1 report? In the past, we've given the end of year report, which is our complete financial picture from the previous year. There's some requests on budget to actuals. We have some budget to actuals. We don't have them to date. That's another project for Michelle once we're on the side of this. So just kind of based on what's here, I'm looking for thoughts and direction, how we want to frame things, and if we have any clarifying questions.
I think our focus should be on passing the override. So whatever we have available that's already been produced, happy to provide that, but our energy right now is on the budget that we've been working on since November. I have heard in a couple meetings, some of the Essex board saying things like, well, I would like to see this, that, or the other thing, but we haven't received any requests for that information. So to receive them 2 weeks before a town meeting seems like an unwise time to submit that request if the intention is to bolster the district and work together towards passing our override.
Can you just clarify for all of us under the various different sections that this request was issued? How is, first of all, do all these requests, in your opinion, fall within the, either the regional agreement or a public records request? Because certain requests look to me, and I'm not sure, but looked broader and not a typical document request, like I've seen.
Yeah, I would say, as we go through them, the budget to actual figures, I mean, we have them in
Yeah.
one format in historical budget, like the historical budget format shows the actual of the previous years. So we would have that, that's public, it's available online, it's available in all of our previous budgets. The fund balances are actually included in this year's budget. So that's just pointing people to a page. The 10-year enrollment is in the budget. It's simple enough. I think we have clarified where the mistake was. It was in the way we were reporting and calculating school choice from year to year. Household, that's a relatively easy pull. The one that kind of piggybacks on the previous health insurance, we can certainly provide the quotes. I mean, they've been part of our public documents in terms of reporting for the budget. Associated with actual healthcare expenses. I probably would ask for a little clarification on what that is. And then we have the document on the reduction in headcount.
So those are all things.
Those are all
already been produced. We've already discussed them in open meetings. They're already in our minutes. They're already on our website. And so we're just being tasked with sending a link to them.
Well, there are clarifying questions being asked too, which could require to develop some narrative.
Please do not provide the data in DESI format, but actual format you've been using.
So that's the end of year report.
Yeah.
DESI format.
Right.
So I want to speak to the difference.
It states that they want it in the budget summary form, so I'm assuming, and that's what I'm assuming here, only being here a year now, is that they want it in the summary form, basically that we're showing you the budget now by that line item. It doesn't match up exactly to what had been provided, so that would be a matter of reformatting, recalculating, and as you know, our system does not just produce those documents. Those are spreadsheets I will have to create the past 3 years. We have given them the end of year report. They're on the website. That is literally every dollar we spent, every dollar we received, but they want it summarized to match budget documents.
And what type of link is this to the documents that you just referred to? So it breaks it down into 2 categories and you just walk through the data from past years.
It will probably take about 6 hours per year.
6 hours per year. And so you're just talking about one of those things.
Yes.
Which one are you talking about?
For year-to-date reports, the end of year budget actual for FY 22.
Number one.
But these exist in, am I correct in thinking that these already exist in other formats?
Yes,
So
but they don't want that.
public records
That's what we're not sure.
Right, public records, a public record request is for something that already exists, correct?
Correct.
If it doesn't already exist, then it is falling under this very general phrase from our regional agreement that says that they, they may request additional information relating to the operation and maintenance of the district as may be deemed necessary by the committee or the selectmen. But we have no distinct timeline for that report. Is that correct? Correct.
I'm sorry, just so that we make sure we're all on the same page. It says, please provide in the actual format you've been using internally.
Yeah, so we already have this.
So
Well, I have a new format I created over the past year. I don't have prior use.
So they're asking for the format that we have used.
I just wanted that clarified.
That's how, what I assumed.
So yes, you currently have it since you've been here, but you don't have
I
it
don't
in
have
dating
for
back.
prior years, correct.
Well, I mean,
What we have for prior years is, for example, the budget document, it just has the past columns. That has the budget and then the actual next to it.
Could anybody with knowledge of finances, say a member of the finance committee, take a different format of that document, and if they so wanted it to be in the format that you're referring to, would they be able to do that themselves?
The previous format that we did before Michelle is very similar to what we're looking at right now. I think Michelle did a good job consolidating some line items and whatnot.
Right.
But I think we could go back to the request term, see if it would be okay to receive the information as is and how it was presented. This year might be a little bit different, but it's anybody looking at this to be able to analyze it.
Right, so that's all, that would be online from all of the previous years. And I guess I'm not trying to go, I asked for a timeline, within the 10 days on the public records components. I think it's more, if we get into, would you like to go forward and produce documents? If you do you want us to bring them to you first, present them? I mean, what's the mechanism you'd like us to operate under for the regional agreement request? Should we just respond to the request directly? Do you want it to pass through school committee? It's just an implementation of a new process.
I will submit this. These are not new questions. This is not a new conversation. The phrase about any other information as deemed necessary by selectmen of any town is part of the annual report that happens once a year. So 2 parts. One, if anything that's in this request that is already available and created, send that right along. Because we're discussing it now and we can choose to say, please send that right along. The second part of that is anything that is not already created. I think that that's the bigger conversation that we've been trying to have for a few years, because every once in a while someone screams, we haven't gotten an annual report. And then we try to have a conversation about, well, this is what we've been using. Do you want it to be different? And then it stops. So that could be a bigger conversation of the meeting of the 2 towns. What do you want in an annual report? But that's an annual thing. It doesn't mean you could just ask for information all throughout the year over and over. And so that leads me to my more important point, which is to answer your question. I think it's very important that the line of communication continue to be through the school committee. We are the elected officials here. I think it's totally appropriate, and we've all, I think, supported over the years that the paid professionals from our 3-way partnership here be in touch and coordinate with one another and have conversations. But when it comes to requests between the boards, I recognize that maybe the towns don't operate this way. I had a conversation recently with town administrator for Essex.
Yep.
And in Essex, you don't have to go through someone to get answers from someone else. But that's how we operate, because we, as an elected body, should never be without information that is out to someone else. That's not reasonable. So we're the ones who ultimately have to answer to that. If they choose to continue to ask not from the school committee and you wish to entertain that, that's okay. But the flow of information outward, I feel really strongly needs to come at least 2 school committee first. There is an attempt here to cut out school committee. It is our job to represent our towns, make decisions for the districts.
I think that raises a really good point, which is that this request is multifaceted. Part of it falls under a public records request, part of it falls under the annual report. Can we just separate those? Who's in charge of separating those? Should they be submitting 2 separate reports? It's very unclear what the expectations are. Even I saw the email when you had asked to clarify the timeline, and there's really no more additional information provided. But I think Teresa's correct in that any requests for the report that require a significant amount of work from our administrators who already have a significant workload should be coming through the committee. A public records request goes to Pam because Pam is the public records access officer.
And all of these have a public component and could be produced or reproduced, like, like some of the special ed questions. There's a report we do cyclically that has all that information. Didn't do it this year. So.
Jan.
I think I can.
Oh, she's muted now.
We could certainly work with Allison and Michelle, and we could get it updated for this year. Typically, when we put it on the schedule, we kind of piecemeal the work, so we could try to get it ready for the 2nd meeting in May. And then bring it here, present to you, and then. That's what I'm saying, like, I don't think that there's anything on here that we could not with work produce. It's, if we agree that we should produce it, what's the mechanism by which you want it? Like, these aren't reports that you've all necessarily asked for. So that's where I'm just trying to tease out. And I appreciate like your view that the requests come to the committee tasks us with doing things. You understand, we review the report, we explain the report to you, you understand them, and then we pass it on. So we got a lot of ground to cover. If we can't do it in 10 days, some of the documents that pre-exist, we can certainly do in 10 days.
The documents that pre-exist, I think we have to do it in 10
Yeah.
days.
It's fine.
So I'd just like to say I feel like we're falling back into the dynamic that we are also frustrated with, that we have been trying to break ourselves out of a little bit. The timing of this is not ideal 2 weeks beforehand, right? But I do think that we have an opportunity here to assume good intentions. And if we can work with them on as much as we can, and as part of that, scope out what we can't do in that time and lay out a plan to do the rest. Just thinking about the documents we've been producing the past couple of weeks, we have not, like the FAQs and whatnot, those have not gone through this process of coming to the school committee. So I think we want to be careful about trying to ease this out too much.
It's been emailed. You've had those emails, haven't you?
We have not brought them to a school committee meeting.
But you have been able to put your eyes on.
So let me finish, please. Okay? So what I'm suggesting here is that let's treat this as an opportunity to work with them. We can't get them everything in the 10 days or 2 weeks. That's clear. But let's treat this as a potentially collaborative process where we can work that out.
This does not feel collaborative to me, and the reason it doesn't feel collaborative is because it is coming from a board that is not in charge of making the educational decisions for our district, and many of these are framed in such a way that they are casting a judgment on the educational decisions that have already been made. I don't understand how that is collaborative. This could be fantastically collaborative, submitted in August or September. Submitting it 2 weeks before the Manchester town meeting is not collaborative. I don't know how to assume goodwill from that. It feels actually vindictive.
Or stated at one of our public budget hearings that we scheduled for this purpose, and we got little to no questions or input this year. And all.
I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm saying is we have the opportunity to treat this differently than we have in the past.
But we also have such important work to do in the next 2 weeks.
This is part of it.
Can I ask, Pam and Michelle to clarify, because, well, my laptop died, but I was reading through the request. We have almost everything. So you mentioned that it's gonna take you 40 hours to put together. Can you identify which one specifically is gonna take your time? Because it seems like the rest we could easily send out.
The year-to-date reports are not in the format. They are in the old budget book format. The reports that Avi gave were not year-end reports. So I have to go recreate those with reviews. But that's a substantial amount of time.
The year-end report, meaning that, but in a lot of the quarterly, the budget to action reports, it has the previous year update.
Now, looking at the 23, we had a June 6th one. We didn't do a final year one, the 23.
Maybe rewind a little bit. We don't have to go document for document. We can do the work. We can't do the work by the end of this week. We can try to get all of the documents together that are existing in public forum and share with them and ask for some clarifying questions if they would like us to reformat what exists. Then we're into production of new documents. So that's not a public records request. That moves into the other bucket. I think the primary question that I would ask here is one, to make you aware that these requests have come in, and ask if you would like us in the future to just directly respond to requests from both towns, or follow a process of notifying you. If we're going to recreate the special education report, just send it along or bring it here first so that you can see it and you can be knowledgeable of it. I put the FAQs in a completely different bucket. We have annually done presentation of documents, presentation of the budget falls to the school side to do. Messaging around the budget does fall to the school side to do, and it's really questions about the impacts on educational programs. So the question for the committee here is around process when town board request time from the district to produce documents for their use. How do you want us to handle them? What's the process flow through? We will work as fast as we can to get these things done.
I'll put my name on it. If it exists and therefore would be subject to a simple public records request, I think it's reasonable to just take action and notify us, because these are existing documents. You have a requirement. You don't have 10 days to wait, maybe, to let us know in a meeting. They already exist. But if they don't exist, I'm not comfortable saying just get started on creation or recreation of new reports based on whatever anyone from a town board sends. I think that that's something that we could discuss here and decide how best to handle that. And again, if we're talking about this in the context of an annual report, that's a broader conversation anyway, which would be a great opportunity for collaboration. What do we want in that? But in terms of just you getting a request for a new or recreated report, I don't think that that's wise process for us to say, just go and do that, because there's no limitation on that. And once we start that, you are now subject to, you can't do it for some and not others.
And I'd really like to see if there's reports that don't exist or reports that were different, because we had a major change in our director of finance during this period. To Jake's point of assuming good intent, if I assume good intent, I would assume the town leaders in Essex will be okay with the fact that while the reports are in a slightly different format, and would not possibly want our director of finance to spend 24 hours putting together reports just to change the formatting slightly. Like, I would really like to think that with all the work that both towns and our school committee have in front of us, we don't want you to reformat that. I mean, that seems crazy, and I really do. Assuming good intent, I don't think that that's what the Essex leaders would want either.
Meaning, do you guys go back to clarify to see if the previous versions versus this year's version combined will be okay, and then that way you don't spend the time?
Yep, we can certainly do that. Not a problem. I'm fairly certain they have all of the existing documents already. but we can ask for further clarifications.
Have you walked us through the first set of requests, but it's the second set of requests that I think raise different set of questions for me.
Yes.
Those are combination narrative and data builds. So if we work from the bottom, the budget projections for 3 years, we're seeking projected budgets for the next 3 years.
That'll cover two. We don't have an actual
Well, it says,
projection.
it says current trajectory, no growth in FTEs, no change in proportionality of the budget.
And that's where, like, again, we're assuming good best intent, but we're being asked now by the towns to model our budgets for you prior to for them, prior to modeling them for you after Michelle spent considerable amount of time developing an interactive model that everybody can use.
So they can actually use and do this themselves.
Which is, you know, again, we can do these things. It's just a matter of, I would say, if we're going to put budget projections together for 3 years, we need to bring them to this group first and discuss them. If they're going in as a formal response to a request for information so that they can model their budgeting. So everyone has the same information. I would say we should share that with Manchester as well.
Did the towns bring their budget projections to the number crunchers meeting?
The towns projections.
Yeah. For multi-year
We
plans.
didn't see it.
Neither town had a multi-year plan.
Not like they brought number 4.
It seems to me that the model you created in response to budget projections, I don't
Absolutely.
think you have to do something different. I think
We send
that
the tool.
that is a response, it's a tool, that's all we have.
With our update, with our current budget
Yeah,
numbers.
I think that is responsible.
And that already exists and is in alignment with.
So the other three though,
So under special, working up, we'd like to understand more about special education. It's our understanding district develop some specialized programs that help to keep students in district and avoid out-of-district placement and associated transportation costs. We would like to see a breakdown of these programs, associated personnel and material costs, fully loaded costs, if you will, number of resident students served by each program, number of special education school choice students and associated reimbursement, and number of direct bill special education students from surrounding towns and associated revenue. We would also like to understand the fee structure of this direct billing for those students. When did you start taking special education students from out of the district that are direct billed for the tuition in early years? When MERSD created the in-district special education program, we know that it saved us a lot of money given the increase from 18.6 in 2014 to 29.3 in 2024. Are we still saving money for these services based on the costs associated and the need for more FTE? I'm not really sure what the numbers.
I think what feels
So-
difficult to me with that is that I feel as though the report that would come out of that be heavily redacted because we are a very small district and everybody knows who these kids are. So anybody who looks at it and says, oh, look, there's a choice student in this program and this is how much it's costing.
We have a report format that does the majority of this, that just needs to be updated. So I would need some of Allison's time and Michelle's time so we can work through updating so it's like a 3-pronged attack, right? So we get together, we need to update the document. We need data from Allison for programs or teachers, where they are. It's a pretty generic report. I could certainly answer the question about tuition. We've always taken tuition students. It's an agreement between two towns in lieu of private school. But it will take us a little time to redo that report. If we redo that report, I would think bring it here, then send it over.
I would suggest that the language in this one in particular keeps coming back to, we would like to understand. See that a couple times here, and a lot of these questions. I know that we've done it in the past, but this might be a good opportunity to at a more convenient time when we're not 2 weeks out from an override, offer a teach-in with materials that have already been created. I think it's valuable for us to have an idea of when we're going to look at the next sort of iteration of, cost benefit on our special education programming, that sort of thing, have an idea, and we can let them know when that will be, because that's something certainly that's appropriate for us to discuss and want to know anyway. But when it comes to stuff like this, I think that rather than have you spend 10 hours putting together a report using Allison's time, using your time, maybe more than that, it might be more beneficial to offer a 2-hour visit and have that be a posted meeting so that we then have it recorded and we can refer back to it, and anyone else can too, because I know many of these questions have been answered, but if we do a targeted approach, that might be one opportunity for assuming best intent that they really do want to understand.
When was that report last updated?
Not last year, the year before. So 23. I think it was done in February, March of 20.
I would love to,
You know, it has all the programs, it has the head count per program, it's a report on disability, you know, heads by disability, number of teachers, the estimated cost per program. It has all of those things. We just don't have today's updated version. It would be next year that actually is the cycle for the report.
Well, that's
We do
the
it
answer, that
every
here's the
3 years.
report that we have, and it's due to be updated next year.
But I don't think some of these questions can be answered by that report, nor do I know that. Given the increase from 18.6% in 2014 to 29.3% in 2024, which I believe is the increase in special ed students, right?
No,
You sure?
we don't have 30% special, which is.
What's that?
It's a,
around 22.
22. Okay.
Well, I think I have to go, I have to track down with that number.
So
I haven't
I
done.
don't know what increase they're referring
the
to.
cost, so it's like, you know, include transportation, I think it's out of district costs,
Oh, they
all
might
that stuff.
think the cost increase.
Out of district,
Not the
transportation skyrocketed after 2020.
So that might be the case, but what I was gonna say is the question that's being asked is, are we still saving money for these services based on the costs associated and the need for more and more FTE? I mean, these are good things
In
for
that
us to
report,
think
it's the
about.
cost benefit analysis and shows. the
Okay,
cost.
perfect.
Yeah, so,
I didn't think it would actually show that level.
yeah, we do it, it's a report, and I'm looking at former members that we have done almost every 3 years for 18 years. So it exists, it's just not up to date for this year. It's just as if they would ask for an athletics fee analysis. We did the athletics fee analysis last year. We certainly have a format and a tool to do it, it's just not pertinent to this year.
I do not think right now is the time, though, to direct you to create a new report with all of these pieces included. I don't think right now is a reasonable time to do that, but I do think it would be valuable to offer a teach-in. Just putting this out to the committee, if that's something they're interested in at a time that works for you guys, given your heavy load right now. But also, in recognition that these questions are things that we want to address and what that schedule is going to be.
I think that's more my concern than mobilizing to get things done. We can mobilize to get things done and probably have one of these, if not. For like the second meeting in May and maybe one of them for the beginning meeting in June. I don't think we can have them for pre-town meeting. Because there's no way we can produce, digest.
No, the timing is unreasonable for that.
I also think there's value in understanding that we have 2 town meetings, and anything that we create for the purpose of trying to beat a town meeting deadline should probably be beating both of them, out of fairness to both communities. And that's an even tighter turnaround.
I recommend something, since 80% of anything, everything request here is something that we already have, that you can easily send out. I would say if you want to communicate out, that here is a list of the 80% that you're requesting, and then here are the 20%, and then give people a deadline to see what is reasonable for you, whether it's past the town meeting or whatever, but like you mentioned, it's good for us to have it anyway. And so maybe it will take you, I can decide, like a month, to make it, either way, I think we are showing good faith that we are producing it, we're looking into this, and then give people a deadline.
Yep.
And I think that's reasonable.
Would it be productive for us to go through and identify pieces of this exist and which do not, so that we all have a common understanding of
reported and on a video.
Just about done, right? Is that too late?
I don't know that we've gotten into the specificity of which parts of these. Because they ask for explanations.
Again, I'm not struggling with the fact that it's public and reportable. I'm more just struggling with the workflow and what's reasonable to do in a certain amount of time if part of the process is to bring finished product of new reports to school committee prior to releasing them to the 210s. That's kind of what I'm trying to get my brain around, making you aware that this is in, public record is easy. It's good to have the feedback that you're comfortable with us sharing public records as they currently exist, not necessarily creating new ones, which under public records, that's what we would do. We would probably send them just the budget sheet, get the past years on them. And then just, we can work through and inform them that at this point, it's going to take us a while to get through more of the lengthy narrative-based pieces.
So that goes to the can we, but I think we're also at the should we. And that's the part of the conversation that the things that can easily be sent because they already exist, or even tangentially, like the things that are in a slightly different format in recognition that we've got a new director of finance and operations. Yes, but I don't think the should is there for creating new reports of narrative about special education and reports of narrative about the program that specifically references in here that this may trigger some type of right sizing the program, given our, like, there seems to be outcome expectation with this as well. And I am not super comfortable about that direction coming that way. I think that needs to come from open meeting conversation, not, how could you even answer that?
Well, if that, in a public records, I would provide the program of studies, the elementary program outline, a copy of like a brief explanation of the fact that students take 7 courses. And that's it.
That was my thought was that is the response.
I guess as I'm reading it, that
And
if
the strategic.
I'll go so far to say if that was, from my perspective, if that's what was being requested, all of that is currently posted on our website, available, it's been shared.
That seems consistent with all of the requests. So I think, but maybe if we
I can bundle it all up.
put it in this format, maybe it will make more sense.
Okay. And maybe some of this that we're reading in black and white is just context and we're reading it differently than the intention is. And that sometimes happens when we send a letter instead of having a conversation and we understand that. So if we're assuming best intent and you put together everything that does exist, and then we see if there are gaps that we can see and also what the response is. This is what we have, this is what's available. And now if there are pieces that are missing here, let's work together to see when they're either already going to be addressed or what the committee wants to prioritize for use of time.
My biggest concern with it, this is the bullet that concerns me most, the program question, because this is going, I think, pretty far afield from where town leadership has every right to the documents that exist, to look at the program of studies which currently exists online, to ask us questions. But I think if the plan is that we're going to have leaders from each town trying to decide which classes are or are not worthwhile, I think that's a really dangerous road to go down. We need to continue to have questions about whether the program is right sized. I understand all that, but I don't understand exactly the intent of this specific request, and I think we should be careful.
And that's the road we've been down.
And that one in particular feels a little bit like it feels as though it is now our work to provide the narrative for the audit that never happened. Or that did happen, but not to anyone's specifications.
So the list of all offered courses and the other elements that are part of the program in capital letters, or But provide us with your own description of what the program means. That's not something that exists in a report format, right?
And then the student load. It's just reorganizing the report that we have. I mean, you can see the class size. Elementary, middle school is pretty straightforward.
In an org chart format.
I don't really understand what it means by student load per teacher. Because we have some teachers who see the same 30 students, same 25 students all day long. We have some teachers who see.
Right, so the high school, if I'm a high school teacher, my student load would be anywhere from 50 to 350. Right, depending on what my course load is and what my assignment is.
Or if you're a special educator who does one-on-one, your student load might be 7.
The elementary school, all of the specialists see all of the students in both of the schools, so that's in the 400-500 category.
So I
Classroom
just,
teacher sees.
We all notice and know that this information is valuable. Right, this translate to any type of.
right, but we're being asked to use our assets to collect it.
In an organizational chart format.
That's a good way to put it. I'm just notifying you that your assets have a request before them that you need to be aware of, and we will proceed. Some it should be quick and easy if the current format is sufficient. If not, then it does get a little bit more.
Maybe I'm misunderstanding this. When they say in an organizational chart format, I'm thinking of an org chart with this leads to this, these two, and the branches. This is what they're asking for?
Well,
but that's not data.
we do have the district org chart,
Yeah.
but then it goes to the building principals and then
Right.
it just lists the teachers.
And
It doesn't list all of the individuals and all of the assignments.
Because this is asking for students to be below.
Oh,
I have a quick question. This is also requested of like Essex 10.
I'm not trying to make anything, I'm trying to notify you, get some clarity on how much time and energy you want us to put in the short term and then the long term. It's a lot.
provide what we have.
I would just pick the low hanging fruit,
And any new reports, we should stay with the same general policy that, that you check with us first. That just sort of that's just common sense, right?
Yeah, we're just yes. I think what's introduced here new is just kind of the reference to the regional agreement, and that is language in the regional agreement, so.
That's the issue though, right? Is that it's referenced in there in terms of the annual report. So if you want all of this included in the annual report, we can schedule this out for October 1st. That's not going to help us right now. Right now.
Also makes sense, right? I mean, I'm not sure when the last
Maybe
time,
it's helping right now.
Right, maybe that
if there's new
is
information
the intent.
that our town partners would like, then we can definitely update, future reports to reflect that, if that makes sense.
Can I ask a question? Is there anything on here, and again, I am trying to assume good intent too, and positive intent, and I think that it is a step in the right direction to actually have all of this written down somewhere, sent with people's names on it as an official request, rather than hearing piecemeal from different meetings that these requests are happening, but we never actually see any of it. So I think that is a step in the right direction. Is there anything on here that doesn't exist in the format requested currently, but that is, I'm not even talking like low hanging fruit for things that don't exist? Like, is there anything on here that you feel like, you know what, that would be valuable for me to put my time to right now? If not, that's okay, but I'm just curious if there's anything on here that you're seeing, you know what, that could be done in a pretty quick turnaround, like maybe the resource allocation question, whatever it is. And is it that you think would be valuable to answer these questions and appropriate?
It's a lot of questions.
I know.
I think resource allocation at one level is fairly direct, but then when you're getting into every TA their assignment, it's going to be time consuming and then have to tap other people to help get that part done.
Especially things like drop off.
Yeah.
The lines,
Right.
TAs who go where they are needed most.
I mean, I guess I would make the argument, if I were getting this blind, I would say this all exists in the chart in the budget. It shows you the school teacher, it doesn't give you the grade level, but if you, then I would point them to the enrollment chart that does show you how many teachers at each grade level. I mean, so it is all there.
Yeah.
It doesn't get into every TA. That, we just don't have it. We do have TAs by building.
One last clarifying question. The public records request is only with respect to existing documents, is that correct?
Yes.
So the only way to create documents would be pursuant to the regional agreement?
Or we just agree that we should do these things and pursue looking at this information together, which is it's just a fine answer. It's just not, it came in very formal. I'm sharing it with you in a
No,
formal
I'm
way.
sorry.
But yeah, I mean, if we got this blind from some organization that does public information requests, we would just package up what we have and send it off to them. And the language would be, you know, have records responsive to that request.
I just wanted to, am I thinking about that the only way that, because in law, typically, you don't get records that don't already exist. So I just wanted to understand where that source is coming from, that source is. Thank you.
It's also just a relationship.
Not denying that at all, but that I wanted to see what documents govern how we respond to certain requests, because if it is more effective and productive to sit down with our town leaders and have a discussion rather than taking 40 hours of time to create a document, we should all want that result.
Yeah, and we do have a document, and I think it goes, you know, it's going to be dated now, but we did meet one year, a couple of times with the Essex FinCom. I think it was joint with Board of Selectmen, where we actually walked them through all of these documents. We walked them through the special education report at the time, the cost benefit analysis, what programs existed. If I could bring it up, I would bring it up. It was, and it was the same thing. It was our budget construct, it was our staffing, it was our losses. So it actually covered just about everything here. So I think there should be common knowledge if you're a school committee follower that those documents do exist, they are publicly accessible. And if you go on the web, go on the school committee presentations back a couple of years, you'll probably find the special education one there right now. Fine.
So we're on agreement to send out what we have,
Yep.
and then any new documents produced. Discuss. Fantastic. So moving on. We have amendment for the FY26 adopted budget.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the FY26 operating budget up by, no, just kidding, down by $85,057 for a total of $32,597,141, and that is due to health insurance decrease.
Second.
Yes, so just to give just a 2-second overview, our health insurance kept being relentless with our broker, begging them to give us another look, another consideration. We did get a third proposal, bringing our final rate down to 22.95%. So they dropped it another 1.5%. Back, not a bad rate considering what's out there these days. I mean, it's a bad rate.
Yeah, I think the town of Essex is at 19.9, so we're.
Right, so we're,
That's because it's capped to.
Right.
Yes. So they did come down to 22.95. It did result in the savings of 85,000, which we will be reducing the assessments to the towns. But that is for this budget amendment. That is the only thing that's changing in the budget.
Okay, questions?
Thank you for continuing to pursue.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We have to take a look.
Any questions? Any discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. And then, a discussion about where these are stays with Manchester and Essex town meetings, or is it a discussion or? We can kind of combine this with the budget approval timeline.
Yeah, so
Sorry.
Manchester is April 28th, Essex is May 5th. So we will return from the April break, which is next week, to a town meeting on Monday night. The following Monday night will be the Essex town meeting. So that's a little bit, when you put.
We're on planet for vacation.
And on that Tuesday, we have the Q&A and a building committee meeting. So and just kind of to articulate it in public for people who are watching, we assume success. I think we assume that there'll be success at the town meetings. There typically is with the budget passing. And then the next step for Essex would be in record correction. We need a majority vote to support the budget in Essex. That had building project burned in my mind. So when you do the debt exclusion building projects, you need 2/3. When you do a straight budget approval, it's a majority, and then they're approving kind of the contents of the scope of the budget to be enacted should it be successful at the ballot. And the ballot will be a week later on May 12th. Polls are open from 7 to 8. And on May 13th, we've scheduled a tentative meeting should we need to discuss further action. The budget approval timeline I was thinking about when I added this to the list is just kind of what happens after the fact. So I'm going to assume on the 13th, we'll be notifying everybody that we will sunset the contingency plan, hopefully never to have to look at that again. If that's not the case, then the committee will have to go through its period of reconsideration where it rethinks the budget, considers any inputs that we received along the way, and determines what budget they'd like to send forward again to the towns. And we go through that whole process again, 2 town meetings, if necessary, a ballot vote. Successful the second time, we have a budget. Not successful the second time, then you could determine whether you want to make corrections and or take it to a joint town meeting. As I am putting FAQs together and getting the question, I think it's important for everybody to understand that if we are not successful that first go around on May 12th, I don't see a timeline where we have resolution that doesn't land us having to begin enacting the contingency plan. Our notifications by contract, by law, are June 15th, by contract as close to May 15th as possible. So we will have to let people know in a formal way, even if they are all recalled by the end of the year, because we are able to resolve by June 30th. So there will have to be forward action. That's all that.
Anyone have any questions? The expectation is that the full school committee is at both town meetings.
I have a question. If anyone here or perhaps Ann could answer. Do you know what article numbers they are for Manchester? Just for anyone having, I'm looking at the warrant and I see the Essex Tech one. For Town of Essex, I can tell you their articles 7 and 8 of 43. So we are grateful to the Board of Selectmen for organizing things in that way. It doesn't always go that way, but this year it's awfully helpful for that to be the case. And do you happen to know which article is the school budget?
I think it's Article 5, but it could be Article 6.
It's 6.
It is after the town budget
Yep, there it is.
and before Blackpool zone.
Yep, I see. Article 6. Thank you. So Article 6 for Manchester. And I will just suggest, knowing that we don't always attend even our own town meetings fully, but it is valuable for us to stick around and see, especially with the other town, what other kinds of things they're considering.
Has anyone, have the chair and the vice chair received any communication from towns as to whether or not they want you to speak to the budget?
The Board of Selectmen did speak about that in Essex last night, and said that they would be in touch with Chris and Penny representing those articles.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I guess I'll for it.
Isn't it usually the person from the town? Like Kate would speak to Essex, or I would speak to.
Not yet, but the expectation would be.
Sal, running, sounds,
Yes.
who's running this meeting?
Do you have any other questions about the approval time? Next steps.
Just, we did tentatively schedule a meeting for May 13th here, so we can be prepared to make a turnaround if necessary. But it seems like it would be good to have some communication in advance of that, even about potential second town meeting if necessary. I don't want to be like expecting something to fail, but it wouldn't hurt to be looking ahead and seeing if there's a possibility of getting something on the books if necessary.
I totally agree for the best.
Yeah.
Because we just don't want this to get, there's a limited amount of time. If things didn't go our way, we need to do everything in our power to move this forward, quickly to a resolution for everybody's, I mean, for the students' sakes, for the teachers' sakes, all of them.
So is that something that you would do, or we would ask Tim to do with Greg and Brendan? How would we want to structure this?
I'm thinking, ultimately, do the boards have to, they vote to have another town meeting? So I can ask Greg and Brendan to see if they can project what that timeline would look like. They'll need something from us. And I am drawing a blank right now on what their notification periods are, like how many days they have to post that the meeting is coming.
I remember last time the Board of Selectmen kindly did a very quick, I might have even been online, meeting just to take that vote and be done with it so that they could move forward with it. It's in everyone's best interest to resolve this.
Would you like me to request that from them what their timeline is? Yeah. Or let it on its own?
Be my suggestion.
I respectfully.
Both on the importance of passing the budgets and understanding the consequences.
I'm going to reiterate, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. I mean,
I'm gonna, I guess maybe I'll speak a little more strongly on that then. I think we should absolutely prepare for a second town meeting. At least picking a date so that they have it on their mind. Informal communication by fingers held up says that it looks like maybe 7 days is the required notice for a special town meeting. But we can't be waiting until that point. So if we're prepared on 13th to make a decision about whatever the next step is, let's have something on the books. A date, they don't have to vote on it.
Well, I see that Ruth is online right now, so I'm sure she's listening.
Yeah.
here. And could you communicate with the town boards?
I'll send a note to Brendan and Greg just asking them what their contingency plan is for a second round of overrides, and what the timeline would be.
I feel like this is unsettled.
Teresa and I would like that to happen.
We would love that to happen. We would love someone to pick a date so that we have a potential date if that's the case.
I agree, but that's not our job. It's their job, and this is not a surprise process. I feel like, I mean, I guess that maybe I am blindly trusting that our town leaders will have the foresight to anticipate the consequences.
I have expressly asked in a meeting recently, with the Prime Minister, a very good productive meeting, just trying to understand and learn. My understanding is that no, there are not contingency plans in place. So I think it's.
So we're asking them to
Ask.
consider
Let's
putting
consider,
together.
pick a date.
Well, I think we have to ask them to consider putting together a contingency plan and
Yeah.
offer dates.
Yes.
Potential dates, but can't direct, I mean,
No, it's a request. If it fails, it's not going to be an option any longer. So they have the alternative is they could wait out 45 days, right? I mean, is that the,
Reading 7 days for an annual meeting and then at least 14 days before a special meeting.
14 for special?
So I agree with Kate and what Chris is saying, that this is hopefully something that the town leadership is already thinking about. However, it's our job to make sure that we're best protecting the district. And I think this falls within it because the chaos created by it being forgotten in any way is not fair to ask our students or teachers to absorb. So
And for our side, we will commit to being timely by meeting the day after that election if necessary, so that the towns have an answer really quickly about what we're planning to do.
So are we gonna have a plan of action on the May 13th? Instead of talking about it now, on the board. So like the communication. Or
What do you mean a plan of action?
So I think right now, I see a lot of, like, it's great to see various applications. There's many things that we're, community is doing now to try to, make it happen, so we don't get to the second vote. But if we are trying to prepare for the worst, what is our plan of action other than we? I think right now, the only thing that we have on the agenda is tonight, on the 13th.
Well, wouldn't that be to decide if we're going to propose a new budget and what that entails?
So in addition to the budget, yes, we would need a meeting to discuss in detail, but perhaps we can discuss more now, if we really want to be prepared about what kind of advocacy or communication plan that we would like to have. The second one, the superintendent one, or even for next year. I don't think right now we have done that far.
So I like what you're pointing out there, and it seems to me that if we do have to meet on the 13th, that could be, really just a two item agenda. One would be reconsider the budget based on the results, and second item could be an action plan in preparation for the next. I don't think we can solve for that tonight, but I agree that we should plan to use that time if we need to.
A communications action plan?
Yeah, we can start thinking about it now. We still have a month before May 13th.
I think right now, I know we're all involved in trying to be at these things and that sort of, there is a lot going on that we're trying to help by being at and support. But I agree that if we get to that point, it would make sense to, in an open meeting of our own, discuss our plan.
the community outreach, and I know some of you probably saw my email, but it's really critical right now. There's a lot of reasons we should be doing it, but I hope that it's something that beyond passing this budget, everyone will continue to reflect on. And I have to say that it was also just really a really nice thing to do. I connected with community members who were really wanting to understand more and probably don't have as many opportunities to get to these meetings and attend them. And whether they agreed or disagreed is beside the point, but being there to answer questions and make those connections, I think is really important. And it felt really good. So for that reason alone, it felt better than this.
I would think that you would replay your blueprint from this segment, the second segment. Have some dates identified for community Q&As. Outreach to groups again, helping to explain second round looks like, but really it's going to be a complete replay of where we are right now.
These guys until starts and everything.
I feel like we've worn out this conversation a little bit.
I don't know. I mean, you could certainly pick dates, line up the schedule if you wanted to.
I don't see, no, I think
Okay.
the towns have to, we can't pick dates for them.
No, I mean, in communication, like, oh, it's not. Okay. Think we're done?
That's just me.
Any school committee comment? Take a
I have
motion.
comments. That's pretty similar.
All right, good.
No, just similar to what Erica just pointed out, I just think that it's real important because this is the last time we're meeting before the town meetings. This round, 2 years ago, there were some key people who put in an enormous amount of time and effort and energy into trying to help people understand and get the word out in Essex. And ultimately, it passed a town meeting, failed at the ballot. People have learned from that and more people are involved by a long shot. And sometimes it feels like spinning because there's just so many things going on. And it's really helpful for me as a school committee member. My comment is just to say thank you because I know what it feels like when it just feels like the burden is all on us as individuals, but it gives our committee a chance to support community efforts rather than it feeling just like the other way around. And I just very much appreciate all the work that's out there being done right now. There's a ton going on and it's really valuable and helpful.
Thank you, Teresa.
No, thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna bite my tongue so we can end on that one.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.